Happy Holidays Part 2. I hope you've had a wonderful holiday celebrating with family and friends in a way that is pleasing to you, or in a way that is showing you things that it's time to maybe learn or heal. Because isn't that the goal? To use life as a mirror and assess what our next steps are. So today's show is going to be short. It won't be a Q&A. It won't be a session with Doug and I. It will be with Jeanne Peters. We did a video. You can go to jjflazanes.tv to watch it. But we're talking about brain health, and it's a preview of what we're going to cover at Releasing What Weighs You Down. So you still have time to buy your virtual ticket if you can't make it live to the event. But, you're going to have 3.5 days of being with me and Jeanne and Lisa and Michael and really being able to extract all that you can out of all of us and get the benefits of the healings, the live healings that we're doing with Lisa. And of course, Jeanne is full of wisdom on every level. So it's like having a personal session and then some with almost each of us. So I hope that you're considering it. Today and tomorrow, we'll still be offering the 25% off. And the 25% off is 25 off. So 25 OFF capitals, and then the rest is capital 2, RWWYD, Releasing What Weighs You Down. So 25 off RWWYD, all in capital letters, and you can take 25% off your ticket. It's only for the Alive ticket, though. And then the virtual ticket will be sold up until about January 8th. And then after that, it is no longer available. And when it comes back out, it will probably be either less material or more expensive, or both, because I won't package it the same way. You get more when you get it now than when you get it later, when I have time to actually go through it on a deeper level and sort of space it out and attach other things to it. So hopefully if you're on the fence, again, get the virtual ticket. It's the best next thing. And the virtual ticket, by the way, is also not you sitting at your computer while we're doing the event. The virtual ticket is you buy it and then you will get it delivered to you via email in a course form where you're going to get access to the sessions, audio, video, and all the handouts and all the healings and the exercises, and you'll get to do them on your own time. You won't get it for about 2 to 3 weeks after the event, but you'll get the event is the point. So if the information is of interest to you and you can't come, again, you can still get all the sessions and you can have access to them over and over again. Also, if you're coming to the event, you also get the virtual ticket as well. So what I want to say about Jeanne Peters, if none of those work for you and you want to reach out to Jeanne Peters, it's nourishingwellness.com. Make sure she knows you are part of my community. But we're going to talk about brain health today, and we're going to get a little deeper as the year goes on, talking about some of the things that we bring up during this short little show, because I'm really passionate about educating people on how to get off medication and how to really heal things, not just suppress the pain or suppress the condition and the symptoms that you're having. I mean, why would you want to be on pharmaceutical medication for the rest of your life? That's a kidney failure waiting to happen. So if you haven't been made aware yet that you have access to all kinds of healing modalities, especially food, then I hope that today's show, plus others that I've produced already and future shows, will help give you a choice and empower you to decide how you want to live the rest of your life. Happy holidays. Again, don't forget, 25% off for the rest of this week. It ends on Saturday. Hope to see you soon. Welcome, everybody, to this video and audio simulcast. For those of you that are listening to it on the podcast, Jeanne and I did do a video of this, so come on over to jjflazanes.tv to my YouTube channel, and you can watch the video of the two of us discussing brain health. And it's something that Jeanne is going to go over in depth at Releasing What Weighs You Down here, coming up very, very soon, in less than a month. We are a month away from, or less than a month away from, maybe like the last time we're going to do it this way. So I just really want to invite people to listen up to today's very short information show and extract what you can from it, and know you can get more if you buy the virtual ticket or if you come join us at the live event, or of course if you work with Jeanne directly. But it's going to be incorporated with some other foods that we're going to have for you at the event, as well as other information from exercise to the emotional stuff with Lisa, clearing inherited emotional DNA, and we're going to be tons of stuff to do. So Jeanne, first I want you to tell us why you are so passionate about, because I know this is something, you like me, you follow your intuition on what people need based on who you see, and you get excited about something you want to deliver to people. So why brain health? right now?
Great question. And I actually am a living example of somebody who recognizes that my memory is not as good as it used to be in my 30s. I'm in my 60s right now, and I'm seeing so many more of our clients that are complaining of, memory issues and mood issues. And I think there's just a lot more that we really are just in sort of our infancy about the brain. And so I just decided last year to go ahead and make that an area of study for myself. And I was fascinated on all the different ways that the brain and the gut are connected, and the brain and our foods are connected. And I thought I really would like to go ahead and be able to bring more of the information that I learned back to the public. So part of my desire is to be able to test some of this out. We're going to be going ahead and launching a brain health program for our clients, and I wanted to be able to test it out with your clients that will be attending the seminar, just to be able to see how it's received and see how we might be able to tweak it. But I think everybody that I know of, has had some kind of lapses with memory. You get to the top of the stairs, you can't remember where your keys are. You just things in which we're so much more distracted than we were maybe when we were kids or when we were teens. So I feel like there's more that I want to be able to open the box to help people understand the things that they can do, rather than just making the complaint, oh, it's part of aging, or, oh, it's just,
Right.
It's just, I just have a bad memory. I mean, there really is actually a lot more that we can do to optimize our brain health. So with that, I'd love to share more.
Yeah. So I see you wrote me out a few points, and the first one is exercise, increasing circulation to the brain. Right. So while I want to go over all these, I know we're not going to have time for all of them. So let's pick like the top 3 that you think are either the most misunderstood or sort of the newest research that we have to talk about the effects of some of these tips on the effects of brain and brain health.
Well, I think part of it helps to go ahead and understand that I can give you strategies, but if you understand some of the structural things that are going on, that helps. So, for example, I would say that a lot of some of the issues that many people are having and that are in their 20s, 30s, and 40s sometimes can be related to stress. And in our brain, we actually have like a superhighway that runs, and it's called the HPA axis. And it's like the hypothalamus speaks to the pituitary, and the pituitary speaks to the adrenals in the gut. And there's this like freeway system that runs to connect the dots, so that when our bodies are, let's just say, maybe we're just done like an intense exercise, and our bodies are sweaty and hot, and our muscles are burning, and maybe we overdid it. So our adrenals are putting out too much cortisol. Sometimes when we put out too much cortisol, it can actually create a chronic stress. And chronic stress can lead to memory issues. So that's an example of like where there's structural issues that are going on within the brain. There could be somebody who has a genetic predisposition to Alzheimer's. Maybe they carry the genetic SNP in which they're more prone to having cognitive decline at an earlier age, or Parkinson's or something. So some things could actually be manifesting, it's like a switch that goes on and something is switching that on. So those could be. And then I think there's also there's brain chemicals, and some of us just don't optimize our supply of brain chemicals through sleep to be able to manage the stresses that we're faced with every day. So for example, serotonin. Serotonin is kind of our calming brain chemical. It tends to calm us down. We tend to optimize that in our gut. If our gut isn't really healthy, we have a lot of bad bacteria, or eating inflammatory foods. The 80% of our serotonin that needs to be made just to help us feel calm might not be optimized. So there's just structural issues and things that we can test for. And then there's always the lifestyle, which is, I sent you some tips on lifestyle and exercise and many other things. So if I had to pick 3,
just 3,
I would have to say that
newest or misunderstood, or, some of the stuff or most effective even.
I would have to say right now at the top of my list, which might surprise some people, is actually some of the cutting edge information on fasting. So whether you're doing intermittent fasting, or you're doing a fasting mimicking diet, or you're doing something where you're giving your body a rest. So like an intermittent fasting, you're giving your body typically a rest of 12 hours. So let's say you stop eating at 6 o'clock at night, You don't resume eating until 6 in the morning or maybe 8 o'clock the next morning. So you give your body maybe a 12 or a 14-hour rest. Well, it turns out that the brain needs rest, just like every organ. It needs rest. And the kind of rest that comes when there is no digestion present, so, so somebody who really is giving it a deep rest, they're able to flush all the crap that we generate through the day down the toilet and get rid of it. So there's like stuff that keeps our brain sticky and keeps our brain kind of sluggish. Mm-hmm. And so fasting actually turns out to be one of the ways in which we can actually build new neurons, brain cells. We can actually flush the toilet on the waste products that exist in our brain. It's called autophagy. And we can actually increase BDNF. It's a type of brain-derived neurotrophic factor. It's a factor that actually helps to optimize the function of the neurons speaking to each other so that they're able to produce better amount of neurotransmitters. So I think intermittent fasting is something that a lot of people might want to look at as a strategy for helping to improve brain health.
And I know there are a couple different kinds, like there's the 16-8 and the 5-2. Does it matter? Which is there
I would start with what's easy. So I think what I usually have our clients do is start with just doing something in which you stop eating after dinner. So if dinner is over at 8, you stop eating and you see how long you can go until you can resume eating. So, hopefully you can get through, just to get to sleep, so that would be like maybe 3 or 4 hours. Just even that's got benefits. Just to get people to go ahead and not eat for 3 hours after dinner. That's a huge piece. Then we try to extend it to the point where they would, sleep through the night without getting up and getting a snack. I know people who do that. That would give the brain a rest. And then if you could work up to, ideally the research is showing that, 12 to 16 hours is ideal. So, it takes some effort to do that. But with the longer that you can go, the more that your brain will benefit.
And wouldn't you agree that I have found when I make recommendations for people to do intermittent fasting for fat loss or for blood sugar regulation, that I add in, adding more healthy fat. So it's easier to do on a more of a keto diet because the healthy fat is more sustainable in terms of you feel fuller longer. If you're eating a lot of sugar, I know when I tried fasting and I was having even gluten-free bread, that it would just stimulate my cravings. And I found it a lot harder to either not maintain eating less. Like I wanted to eat more because I had that sort of kindling on the fire, right? That just asked my body to pump insulin, and now I'm hungry and my cravings are going, my mouth is watering. So what about for people who aren't doing, or maybe they're vegans, what would you recommend people do who to make that easier on themselves?
Yeah, it's a good point, because anything that we can do that calms down those chemicals that increase cravings and hunger are good. And so there are certain diet styles, and believe me, there's plenty. I mean, you don't have to go keto to get all the benefits that you're describing right now. Just doing paleo correctly, or doing a vegan keto diet, you can do it. I mean, there are examples of many different eating styles in which people are just getting adequate fats and really cutting down the processed carbs. So that's really the one that tends to stimulate the type of response that you're describing. So anything that you could do where you're putting in more plant-based foods, where you're putting in more fiber, where you're putting in more fat at every meal. I mean, I think that is a huge tip, JJ, is for women and men to learn how to make sure that they have at least a fat serving at every meal, they have at least a vegetable serving, and then some kind of protein. So if you can get those 3 in at every meal, you're less likely to have some of the responses that you talked about. Right. But, keto does have its benefits for people who want to, move in that direction, because 70% of their calories are going to be coming from fat. Fat just tends to give you a greater feeling of satiety, but it's not the only way. Right. I can get people to, have a diet in which they're getting maybe about 40 or 50% of their calories coming from fat, and they still will go ahead and have those benefits that you're describing.
Yeah. I just know when I tried it, for anyone who's listening or watching, that intermittent fasting try it, and try watching what the last meal is for you, and even what the first meal is for you. Because if I came out of fasting and the first thing I had was a more sort of simple refined carbohydrate or refined complex carbohydrate, then it would stimulate cravings. And again, then I'd be hungry. So it's almost like I would overeat because I'd feel hungry as if I had like not eaten for so long. But when I replaced those carbohydrates with more fat and protein, it stopped happening. So, and I can even go longer.
Yeah, and I think there's a couple things to know. I mean, one of the things that I always teach people when they're first getting started is absolutely, if you're going to go ahead and attempt to do this, you're going to have to learn how to make peace with hunger, because it's going to happen. So water is one of the best strategies we have found, and the literature supports this, that just taking an 8-ounce glass of water when you first wake up, that will suppress hunger symptoms. If you have that as an 8-ounce cup of tea and it's hot, that actually works more effectively for some people than just cold water. But the idea of whenever you're feeling hungry, rather than just reaching to get something to eat, if you could just get yourself hydrated, a lot of times that will just suppress the symptoms. So, and the brain loves to be hydrated, so it actually functions better. So it's a good tip for, if you're just trying to get that brain to go ahead and be working better, that hydration is key.
Okay, so we have intermittent fasting for brain health. What's another one of either something really effective that you've been really on top of recently, or that's new or controversial that you would like to share?
Yeah, I think, I want to just talk about the gut-brain connection, because there's so many people that, they have brain fog. And what they don't realize is that it's completely connected to their gut. So they may not be, maybe they're constipated, maybe they have, weird bowels, maybe they're not eating enough fiber. Everything that we've learned about the gut biome right now is helping us to understand things like metabolism, understanding fat loss, our ability to go and produce metabolites that actually improve our mitochondria and absolutely improve brain health. So there's a freeway that runs from the gut to the brain. It's called the vagus nerve. And one of the ways that we can help support brain health is just to go ahead and get people to do things like make sure you're getting a vegetable serving, at least at every meal. I mean, if it's not going to be breakfast, at least maybe 2 at lunch or 2 at dinner, so that you're getting at least 3 servings in a day. That would be great. A little bit of fiber. They're finding out that prebiotic fibers, which prebiotic is the fiber that feeds the healthy gut bacteria and helps them then to develop these metabolites that actually improve brain health. So as they produce these metabolites, they decrease inflammation. And when inflammation is down, inflammation in the brain will go down. So it's like these two are connected. So some of the prebiotic fibers include things like asparagus, onions, garlic. I use a lot of psyllium flakes, which is like a powder. You add water to it, and it swells up. So Metamucil is an example of that, but you can get it without any of the additives, like if you bought it from Whole Foods or, Sprouts or something. So it's very common. But that's a great way of adding extra fiber that feeds this little bacteria that makes them more robust, and more robust brain from a more robust gut. So the two are connected. And, the other thing I want to just say is that if some people are out there that are listening right now feel like, oh gosh, I don't know, maybe I have gut issues, but, I've had a colonoscopy and everything was fine. Absolutely, you want to go ahead and test for your gut. There's ways in which we can test to really determine whether or not you have the right balance of bacteria in the gut. We all have good bacteria, but we also have a lot of pathogenic or potential pathogenic bacteria that if we eat too many carbs, even in 2 or 3 days, we can change the nature of the gut bacteria that actually can produce some of the moods, some of the hormones that actually affect our moods in the brain. So people who tend to feel lethargic, they feel depressed, they feel sad, some of that can be simply because of the food choices that they're making. So gut brain, that's a big connection right there.
I noticed on the sheets we talked about a little about the Senesco test. Is that one of the ways you're testing for neurotransmitters? But that's not about the gut, right? Is that the Senesco test?
No, the Senesco test is different. So that is really, since we're talking about the brain, I mean, I look at people's symptoms, and that's what helps me determine whether or not we need to do more testing. So for example, somebody who comes in who says, they're constantly moody, or they have difficulty regulating their hunger, or they have they're up and down, their moods are all over the place, or maybe they just can't sleep at night. These are all examples of somebody who may have neurotransmitters that aren't functioning or not optimal. People who feel like they sit down to work on a project and they get distracted easily. So ADD, ADHD. I mean, that could be dopamine. Dopamine is kind of your, you feel like a dope if you don't have a lot of it. So that's a good way of remembering it. So we do some testing that would help to understand whether or not you have adequate amounts of the excitatory and the calming hormones, which is serotonin and GABA. And the excitatory is more your catecholamines are the ones that get you ready, for a good workout or get you ready for, any kind of short-term acute stress. Dopamine helps you to think and to stay focused and to stay on task and to be able to get things done. So I think, for a lot of people's symptoms, they may not realize that there's a way that they can get this evaluated, which would give them more black and white evidence that maybe there's a reason for why they're having those symptoms. And the good news is Senesco is very interested in using natural supplements. So they use amino acids often to go ahead and help correct the problem. And that helps to give people hope that they don't have to go on to some kind of an antidepressant or that they don't need to be on some kind of stimulating medication, that there are ways to test and usually ways to heal with food, supplements, and nutrients.
I think that people are overly medicated and unnecessarily, both with self-diagnosed and taking melatonin. I know that, sort of like your hormones, your brain chemistry is also a chemistry lab. And if someone's just assuming that they can't sleep and it's melatonin, when it could be that they have too much dye in their system and they're eating too many chemicals or their hormones are off, right? But they're taking all this melatonin, or in reverse, someone feels depressed. I mean, we know several people who, just they start on medication because they think that's the only choice that they have. Would you agree that there are people out there who are on antidepressants who probably have a gut issue as well as a brain chemistry issue that happens with their gut? Yes?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the field of psychiatry, I just came back from the A4M, which is the International Congress on Anti-Aging Medicine. And the joke among so many integrative physicians is that psychiatrists, have really lost their skills to properly evaluate people. And believe me, I'm sure there's psychiatrists who, are in the pack that practice integrative medicine. But right now, there's people out there that are being put on the medicines without ever having a proper gut test, really doing a proper evaluation to determine why, in fact, they might be depressed. I just did a case study for a group of health practitioners, and my case study was an example of a woman that had been on an antidepressant since she was 16 years old, has never ever had has never been weaned off of it and has never even had a conversation with her physician that she should be weaned off of it, and she's 52 years old. So thankfully, when we did the Senesco test, we actually discovered that she had very low levels of certain nutrients, and she also has some gut issues. So she's getting the proper testing. She's feeling fantastic because as a result of this, we're actually now starting to wean her off of her antidepressant, and we have to work with her psychiatrist, but it's possible. And so if people are listening and realize that, that you've been on antidepressants or any kind of mood elevating or mood suppressing medication, there's usually a way that you can either wean it down and possibly maybe be able to get off of it with using diet and exercise and proper testing.
Yeah, I'm a big fan and believer of getting off of that medication because I believe that even though someone may need it temporarily to get over something or get through something or have enough, wherewithal to sort of be conscious of something, that ultimately it has a drug and it has an effect on your kidneys and has an effect on your liver and it has an effect on, on the rest of your body and your brain because it's masking the fact that you have a gut issue. So, maybe we'll do a show about that in the future because I'm pretty passionate about people being overdiagnosed with pharmaceuticals when it comes to psychiatric and psychological drugs when they don't need to be. Because half the people that I know who are depressed, who are on these medications, eat like crap. They eat too much sugar. They don't take care of themselves. They don't exercise. Forget the psychological piece. Let's look at the health, right? So you have so much more power than I think people practice in order to get yourself off of. You don't have to be, if you're on a drug, we haven't fixed the problem. The drug should be temporary, not lifetime. So using food. So
agree.
But we'll talk about all of this at Releasing What Weighs You Down. So if you're interested in coming, go to releasingwhatweighsyoudown.com, get your ticket or get your virtual ticket, and you'll get all the sessions via audio and video, and it will be after the event is over. So to leave people with another little teaser about some of the stuff we're going to talk about and that we're going to work on, what do you have?
Couple things. One is that I've got another quiz, so I think it's really helpful for people to look at their symptoms and to be able to determine what they might need in terms of their outcomes. So we're going to be looking at some of the most classic neurotransmitters, and I'll help you understand if some of those are either too high or too low based on your symptoms, and that will help in terms of helping people maybe get the proper testing. And then we're going to be doing a lot on food, because there's so many phenomenal foods, JJ, that can help to actually support the brain. Wild blueberries, why would you use that? We already talked about healthy fats, but even your herbs, it's amazing how things like sage, spearmint is one of the best ways to go ahead and improve just your mental cognition. So if you're getting ready to do a big test, or you've got a project that you're going to make yourself a cup of spearmint tea, wild blueberries, why would you want to choose that? I'm going to go ahead and go through, a whole group. I've actually done this research. It's taken me a whole year. I've got a lot to share. So I hope that your listeners will consider, this really wonderful retreat that we've got planned to help optimize the brain health. Is just one of the things that they'll be learning.
Right. We're going to be talking about healthy detoxing for fat loss too, because we can't not talk about detoxing, as Jenny's mentioning, about the brain, about intermittent fasting and detoxing your brain. We're going to get into detoxing in general and all the misconceptions there are about that. So this is again, it's all very integrative and it's all very functional. And one thing that you work on leads to something else. So you might be working on your brain, but you lose a few pounds over here and you feel better and you sleep better and all these other wonderful side effects, right?
Yeah, knowledge is power. So, my feeling is that if you come, you're going to get the knowledge and you're going to feel empowered to want to go ahead and improve and optimize your health. That's just a given.
So go to releasingwhatweighsyoudown.com. Again, we still have some tickets available for the live event, but if you can't make it to Los Angeles on January 10th through the 13th, where we feed you, I can hook up with a roommate. You can take the free shuttle from the airport to the hotel. We never leave the hotel, so you're completely taken care of. Don't think of it as an investment in your health, of your long-term health, because I'll tell you right now, when you don't do things now, and then all these things creep up later, it costs a lot more money to fix some of the damage that's been done by not doing anything and not preventing something from happening in the future. So between pharmaceuticals and hospitals and whatever all of the lifestyle changes that need to be made, now is the time to get ahead of it so that there's not even an issue. So we hope to see you there. Releasing What Weighs You Down. We hope to see you either on video or in the room. Thanks for listening.
Bye-bye, JJ. It's great to be here.
Thanks, Jeanne, so much. Always. Thank you.